I'm so against all this spraying. It's bad for our health. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for the trees. It's bad for the bugs. It's bad for everything. And the people that don't spray aren't getting mangoes. Last year they didn't get any mangoes. And Alex said, I get mangoes. I said, why do you get mangoes? He said, because I spray. How many of you refuse to spray your trees? Put it in the comments below. And how do your crops do here in South Florida? But the best answer is don't grow trees that are susceptible to disease. You're not going to do too great without spraying a tree like this. Insurance mangoes versus mangoes that are highly susceptible to disease that will take a lot more work and they might not fruit every year. How far are we willing to go to make sure we get the ideal fruits on our trees or the ideal amounts of fruits on our trees? It's something to consider and start the conversation about. So that's what I want to do with this video. Start this type of conversation. Hello everybody, welcome to Fruitful Trees. I hope you're doing all well out there. It's so exciting, getting ready for mango season. I have so many videos that I have to put out that I did previously and so much new ones that are going to come out for mango season. And I'm doing my best not to get too far behind. So some of the mangoes, I'm going to start putting the date on when I film those because I'm a little ahead of schedule here with everything I should be getting out there. But I appreciate you all watching and thank you. And if anyone's growing mangoes or any fruit trees and you'd like me to come to your property, please contact me. My email's below. I'd love to come to your property. Today I got a very interesting topic to talk about. And I was up late thinking about this one. So this is something that you're going to help me with in the comments below. Please help me. Let me show you some of these mangoes before we discuss today's topic. It's a really important topic we're going to discuss today. But check this out. First year. Fruit punch is looking great. Look at this one. White Paris. White Paris. Look. Oh, it's looking great. I'm so excited. I mean, everything is really coming along and looking well here despite all the weather issues and everything else. So this is the first year, well, last year was the first year I've really ever sprayed my trees. Last year I sprayed sulfur on my trees. I sprayed copper once or twice. I was going to spray sulfur, but I didn't get to it. But I did spray copper last year. And this year I started spraying sulfur to try to be proactive with the powdery mildew and starting to spray copper. And now I'm looking and just seeing what's out there. And some people suggest when you spray copper, not to spray only copper, to mix it up, so the tree doesn't get too immune to just copper, or the viruses don't get too immune to it. So switch it up. And the things to switch it up with, there are some organic things, but then there's some pretty toxic things that are not organic. And even the organic things are a little on the toxic side. So it's getting pretty toxic. And there's pretty much two sources I go to when I learn about spraying mangoes and mango trees. Look at this. Wow. I got to stop a second and show you this. Look at that. Triple sec. Okay. The dot's looking good. So many great things here. But there's two people I go to. Har, which makes videos for Truly Tropical, and Alex from Tropical Acres Farms. And they both have a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience with growing mangoes, and they understand what to spray to get the most mangoes. Now, they are both working on commercial properties. I don't know what Har does on his personal property, but when he works at Truly Tropical to spray the trees and make videos there, it's his personal that's commercial property. So they're spraying to get the most mangoes. And why wouldn't we do everything we can to get the most mangoes off our trees, right? If that's our goal. And that's what I often say. I say, what is your goal for growing fruit trees? And it's not always everyone's goal to get the most fruit. For me, I want the most because not to sell, but to eat and save and store. But some other people, they don't want the most. They just want to say they grow in very conventional ways that are going to just let them say they've grown something, or they want to grow something truly exotic or something else. But I come to the issue of spraying fruit trees, and it's very interesting. So last night, and this video will probably go out next week, but last night, let me have a seat. This is a good one here. I'm gonna just sit right down here on the grass. Okay. So last night I was at a club meeting. It wasn't the Ref Food Council Club, but it was like that. And Alex from Tropical Acres Farms was speaking about mangoes. And questions were coming up by people as what to spray, when to spray, how to spray. Now, Alex is a consultation for that if you're really interested in that and want to do that. And a lot of people were asking questions about spraying, but these weren't commercial growers. These were the average people like myself that I guess as a goal, they just want to get some mangoes at least, maybe not a lot, but if you're not spraying, there's a good chance you're not going to get any mangoes with the way these bacteria are and everything else. Me, I've always been into natural health and healing and just being as environmental friendly as possible, always. My diet and everything. Any of you that know me, I have a health channel. I'm really into health. And everything I grow, I eat. That's my goal. My food is biggest part of my diet. I only eat fruits and vegetables for the most part, with a few nuts and seeds. But the questions were coming in, and Alex spoke about it. And if you're looking to spray your trees, that'd probably be the person to go to, right? He knows so much. But there was a lady there who I'd never seen before, and that was the first time I was at the meeting, so it was a new meeting. But she didn't look too happy, and I got to talk to her. What's wrong? You know, she said, I'm so against all this spraying. It's bad for our health. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for the trees. It's bad for the bugs. It's bad for everything. And her idea is if things are as natural as possible, you build up immunity to these things. So, for example, let's change this over to a baby standpoint or a child, young child. If your young child gets the measles or something at a young age, guess what? They build up an immunity to it, and they're not going to get measles or something like this or some other illnesses like this. However, if you continually protect them with something, they're not going to build up that immunity to it. So her thought was that if you're not spraying these trees so much and, with chemicals, toxic chemicals, you're letting the tree do what it was naturally meant to do. And I can't disagree with this lady. She's right. But I know people that spray and don't spray, and the people that don't spray aren't getting mangoes. Last year they didn't get any mangoes. And Alex said, I get mangoes. I said, why do you get mangoes? He said, because I spray. So, it's a very interesting topic. So I have some questions about this that I want to talk to you. But the first thing I want to mention or ask you is, how many of you refuse to spray your trees? Put it in the comments below. And how do your crops do here in South Florida? And now the other question, or the other idea is, I would always say or think, making this channel and making all these videos, that the two easiest trees to grow here in South Florida are avocados and mangoes. Avocados and mangoes. And when I just started getting into spraying, mangoes are the only tree I seem to need to spray. I don't need to spray any of my other fruit trees. Not that they're not susceptible to certain diseases, but they're just not popularly sprayed in a local backyard setting like mangoes are. But mangoes, with all the spraying and everything else, are the ones that seem to have these issues. Now, there are some other examples and other issues like the citrus greening and leaf miner and the citrus industry and everything that happened with that. I think what brought the question up last night was the lychee mite. The people hosting the meeting had a lychee mite in the bag and showing people what it looked like and told a story about how the lychee mite came here to South Florida from another country and started infecting all the lychee trees. And the only way to get rid of it now, or at least to keep it under control, is to spray. And if you're not spraying for that, you are not getting lychees here in South Florida. you know, and but for the most part, mangoes have these issues. They're not with a mite. They're not with a wilt wart or whatever. They're with, I mean, avocados have that problem too, and there's no answer for the avocados. There's the thing going around destroying all the avocado groves, and there's not even a spray to help with that at this point. But I have to say, mangoes are probably not, well, you would think mangoes are not that easy to grow, because why do you need to spray when there's so many other fruit trees you can grow without having to spray? Then we get into the real situation and understanding of these things. The mango trees today need spray more than ever before. And I'm not talking about the super commercial supermarket crops. I don't know what those farms do and what toxic thing they're spraying. I'm talking about home backyard growers. The major mangoes from the old days, we weren't talking like we are today about sprays and all this stuff. It's the newer varieties and particular varieties that have a very weak resistance against these funguses and bacteria. Another word is the fungus and bacteria is there, but the weak strand of the variety of these trees, for example, this tree here is called white peri. It's a Hawaii variety. It's very susceptible to powdery mildew. So if you don't spray this with sulfur, there's a good chance you're not getting any, if any, a few mangoes, because of powdery mildew, which stops the mangoes from coming out, because they kind of like choke the edge of this, and you won't get mangoes. And if you don't spray it, it's just going to wipe the tree out. Not going to kill the tree, but it's not going to be able to flower correctly and not going to get mangoes on this tree. However, there's other varieties of trees that do very well. For example, a tree we were looking at here a little while ago, this is a dot tree. And the dot tree does very well with disease issues, anthracnose and powdery mildew. It's been around a good amount of time. And this tree, and another one is Pickering. These trees probably don't need any spray, and you're going to be okay with. And not only are there more and more varieties out now that might have issues with needing to be sprayed, but also when you plant a tree and you selectively prune it, meaning you cut out the middle after each season, you don't let it grow too tall, but more important, you don't let it get too tight in its spacing. So this tree has 20 feet on that side. There's nothing on that side, nothing on this side. And this one's a little bit close, 10 feet. But if this tree all the way around is open to sunlight get in and the air get through it, it's much less of a chance of it getting disease issues, as if I had trees all the way around it, or if this tree was like 10 feet next to another tree, or it was super tall where I couldn't cut out the middle. So there are natural ways to reduce the amount of disease on disease susceptible varieties. But the best answer is don't grow trees that are susceptible to disease. Now, I understand if you got a commercial variety crop and you need to get certain varieties out for selling reasons, but maybe even if you like certain varieties, you're going to try to fight it. For example, lemon zest is a mango tree that tastes absolutely amazing, but if you're not spraying that tree, you're going to run into some issues with getting fruit. But there are so many varieties out there that are excellent that do not need spray. Here's one. This is a Pickering. Pickering. This tree doesn't need to be sprayed. It's also a dwarf tree, actually, but it doesn't need to be sprayed. All right, there's a Pickering tree. That tree's growing beautiful. It doesn't need to be sprayed. But if you look at some other trees like that, one we were just looking at, the white peri, you're not going to do too great without spraying a tree like this. I'm about to do a video with Alex at Tropical Acres Farms about insurance mangoes versus mangoes that are highly susceptible to disease that will take a lot more work, and they might not fruit every year. And those insurance mangoes, the Angies, the Pickerings, the things that are known to do well, are trees that If you're concerned about spraying, those are the type of trees you should grow. You're spacing. I do so many videos about spacing, but if you're concerned about disease, and especially if you don't want to spray, look at the spacing. Try not to plant them too close. And I want to make some more videos about this topic, but my question is, and the video is about who isn't spraying and how have your mango crops been? The answer or the idea is, are your trees stronger and more susceptible or less susceptible to disease because you're letting them get the disease and they're building an immunity to the disease, as opposed to trying to protect the tree and continuously spraying the tree with something? It's a good test. As a matter of fact, me and my neighbor, I was just talking to him and I was thinking about what was being said and thinking about this topic. And one of the things besides spraying copper is a non-copper fungicide. And this stuff is real toxic. Really toxic. I mean, extremely toxic. And I came out of my house and my neighbor was spraying. I'll show you a picture here. It looked like he was going on for a moonwalk or something. He covered his whole body. He said, I don't want this spray to touch my skin. I got glasses on. I got a mask on. I'm like, that's some pretty toxic stuff. And you're spraying your food with that stuff. And that stuff still, even though it's a little pea size you're spraying, it's still getting in your ground, which will ultimately get in your drinking water, which will ultimately affect just everything around you. But you don't want it touching your skin because it's so toxic. Such a interesting topic. How far are we willing to go to make sure we get the ideal fruits on our trees or the ideal amounts of fruits on our trees? Definitely something to help us think about this. So I had a talk with my neighbor about this, and he said he understands and agrees with what I'm thinking and what this lady said. However, he's still going to spray. And I think it's just definitely a topic to see and ask. And I don't know if anyone asked this question. That's why I'm asking. How many of you don't spray and still get good crops? And what varieties are you getting good crops on? And is it worth it to just plant those crops and not deal with the other crops and have to spray? I guess that's the question. Should you not plant the crops that need to be sprayed and only plant the crops that do well without having to be sprayed? And even then you can get something. Even if you spray, you can get something. But it's a lot more work. It's a lot more work. And it's an interesting topic. So me and my neighbor talked about doing an experiment where I won't spray and he'll spray, and we got similar trees, and we'll see how they do and the difference it makes. But even if his come out better, do we really want to be spraying? Now, I can't speak for you, and I can't speak for especially those people that have a commercial crop. But I could speak for health, and I could speak for toxicity, and I could speak for all of that. I mean, if there's a crossbone and a skull and crossbones on the package, probably best not to be messing around with that, I would think. Now, there are some things that people can spray or spray that are more natural than toxic chemicals. But if you look closely, some of those even have toxicity warnings. The only thing I found so far, and I'm going to have a talk with the fellow now, is last year I sprayed and 2 years ago I sprayed. Somebody told me if you spray moringa powder on your trees, and it's in a liquid form, it'll help the trees fruit much more. I don't know how it will be against disease, but any nutrients are going to help the trees do better. So that's something I might experiment with. But then there's some more natural things like something called neem oil that you would think is natural. But then when you look at the back of the container, it's like, don't ingest this, don't get this on your skin, do all this. So you got to be careful. I think, it's definitely something to look more into. If something is going on, and let's say with your own body and you need a antibiotic to get through that situation, that might be a separate situation or a separate case. But if you're just spraying to prevent stuff, I don't want to name or say the names. I don't want to get kicked off YouTube of what people put in their bodies to supposedly prevent certain things. But I'm not for that stuff. I want my body to build up its own natural immunity so I don't have to worry about things like that. You know, one of the reasons I got into farming was to be all natural and all healthy and so on. But again, I have other trees other than just mango trees as well. It's just definitely an interesting topic, an eye-opening topic, and something to consider and start the conversation about. So that's what I want to do with this video, start this type of conversation. And let's see what you have to say about it. Who's against spraying? Who just isn't against it, just doesn't do it? How does your crop come out? Do you only get trees that you don't even have to worry about it? Or do you worry about it and spray a lot and you're highly worried about it? Just something to open up the conversation. I'll try to find the lady from the meeting last night and interview her, see what she has to say about this topic with so much passion that she's teaching about this. But all I could say is, at this point, I don't disagree with her. And I'm thinking in my mind, mangoes, I used to think is the easiest thing to grow here. Well, unless you're planting a Pickering or Angie or something that's the right crop, the ones Alex called the insurance mangoes, it might not be the best thing to grow out here. Unless you have no issue with spraying and doing all the extra work that comes along with that. That's each person's decision, but I'm just going to have to monitor this situation. Me, in my yard, I'm limiting in space, but I always want to get as much airflow to my trees as possible, thinning things out, and also have another fruit so I can have a good variety of fruit and other trees that do not need to deal with sprays or anything like that. So, all good things to consider. All right, everybody. I'll see if I can find that lady and do an interview with her and talk to some other people about this. Let me know your opinion about this. As I said, I have a lot of videos to post, but I felt this was important to get up there to just bring it to people's attention. Thanks for watching, everybody. Looking forward to a great mango season. Have a great day and keep growing.